Hi, everyone. It's Nolan again, coming in for another speech. I just want to say hi on the big screen with my whole face on it because most of this will be over a PowerPoint, and I wanted to at least get somewhat of a more informal introduction before we get into the nitty gritty of it. Okay, so let's get right into the presentation. One quick second. Okay, full screen. Very nice. Okay, so I want to start by asking you a question have you ever struggled to make a decision with a group of people, whether it's your friends, your family, or anybody else in the professional setting? Doesn't really matter. It can be frustrating. We all know that. To get a whole bunch of people on the same page can be a struggle. And today I want to tell you that I am a comms major and I believe that I can help with that. And I'm going to be giving you all the information you need to know on group decision making. Very nice. The three things I will be talking about, my main points, are the relevance of group decision making, questions and strategies to consider throughout the process, and just little things to know here and there. And then next is methods that you can actually implement when you're in the process of group decision making. So to get right into it, there are multiple applications. I know this sounds kind of out there, but trust me. First of all, it can be good in your personal life. Making decisions can be hard no matter where you are, but especially in your personal life, it can be difficult, whether it's figuring out where to go to dinner, like I said earlier. Actually, according to the New York Post, American couples spend 5.5 days a year deciding what to eat. Now, that might be a little higher, a little lower, but can you imagine how much time it takes when you and your friends or you and your family are all together and you're thinking about all the different restaurants you can go to? Well, today I'm going to help with that a little bit. It can also be very useful in the professional setting, whether you're working at a place like McDonald's or some big Wall Street tower in New York. You're going to be working with other people and you're going to need to make decisions with those people. Group decision-making skills also make you a more valuable employee in the eyes of management, and they make the company better as a whole. There are also advantages to making decisions as a group. The more diversity you have in your group and the more people you have that come together to make that final decision really make it better because everyone has different experiences. There is a quote that I want to use from futureofworking.com that says, whenever you bring in people from different educational backgrounds, family environments, and personal experiences, then you will receive a wide array of perspectives that can help you reach a better overall decision in almost any situation. So the way that I kind of apply that is that, say you grew up in this town, it's got a higher median income, you haven't been exposed to much, and you have a different outlook on life than someone who grew up in a poorer neighborhood and didn't have all the advantages and privileges you have, or vice versa, it doesn't really matter. But having those multiple perspectives can actually bring you to a new conclusion and a better decision overall for everyone involved. So next, we are going to get into the aspects and questions to consider. And first, you have to identify the decision that has to be made and accidentally hit the next one. We're just going to roll with it, okay? So applying to first identify the decision, you have to understand completely what you're actually trying to decide, what you have been tasked with deciding, whether it's something that's come from management or something that you're trying to decide internally. And you need to be able to identify all the issues that you might face along the way. Because if you upfront are able to find the issues, then you're more prepared for them down the line, and it makes you have a better decision overall because you were ready for those different things that might come up. Next is establishing criteria for a successful decision. What does everyone need to be satisfied in your group? Like I said, it can be any group, but make sure to go around and find everyone's individual needs. And then once you do find those needs, figure out if the solutions that you're pondering meet those needs, okay? And then lastly, is it feasible? There's always the thing like, oh, well, if I had $1 million, it'd be easy, but we're in the real world. So make sure whatever decision that you come to is actually doable. Make sure it's something you can accomplish. Next, you need to evaluate all the options. What's the most realistic? What can you actually get done? This kind of piggybacks off the last thing, right? What also most accurately meets the criteria you set when you were first making the decision? I know it all sounds kind of vague, but once we get into the methods, it'll start making a little bit more sense. And then the third thing that's applicable to evaluating all the options is figure out the pros and cons for each option that you're considering. because there's going to be an upside and you're going to want to focus on that. But you have to remember that certain people might not be happy, or in the long run, something might not be as good as it could have been. So make sure to look at it from all angles is really what I'm trying to get at here. And then 4, remember to be fluid, okay? As you're going through a process, especially if it's like a lengthy decision you're making, things are going to change. People, whether it's their outlook on the decision or it's your circumstances or outside matters that you have no control over, just be ready to be on your toes and don't stick too hard to your convictions, okay? Because you need to be able to think on the fly, right? Okay, next. Just did that, my bad. Methods you can actually use. This is what we're going to get into, the good stuff. The first one is decision by majority. This involves everyone talking about it, forwarding options, and then voting on it after that long discussion. The pros of this are it's democratic, everyone participates, and it can be really fast. Everyone gives an option, everyone votes on their favorite, boom, that one wins. The cons are that the majority overwhelms the minority. And a quote from the University of Minnesota actually says, this can result in a disgruntled minority causing opposing factions to mobilize. I know this sounds kind of over serious or complicated for what we're talking about, but it is true. If you are the little guy and everyone voted over your decision, it kind of makes you feel like, why'd I even come? Because mine wasn't even really all that considered, and now it's not even in the picture anymore. The next one is unanimous. So this is sort of the idealistic one, if I had to be honest. All the group members must agree on something, and it requires a lengthy discussion. So what this comes down to is the same thing as the last one, kind of. Everyone forwards their opinions, but there's way more discussion that goes into it, and you compromise throughout until you have a final option that everyone's happy with. The pros are everyone's on board. Everyone's happy because they felt like they were considered. This kind of avoids the con of the last one we just talked about, the majority decision, because everyone voted on it, everyone agreed, but it had to be morphed a little bit. So everyone's a little bit happy, but there's going to be some people who are a little less happy, if that makes sense. The con of this is that it's hard to reach unanimous decisions in a large group. According once again to the University of Minnesota, consensus is useful for serious, important, complex decisions that affect a lot of people. So it really comes down to, what are your priorities here? What needs to be accomplished, and what can be shed off as, like shed the fat? What's the final decision that helps most people, hurts the least people? The last one we're going to cover today is combining ideas. So this is kind of a combination of the last two we talked about, actually. So everyone forwards their ideas once again. Everyone in the group discusses, but instead of ranking them or voting them or mending them like into one final decision, you can take a little bit of each person's decision and try and come up with the best possible one. So like, let's say John had a really good idea, but it had some flaws, and Nancy had a really good idea, but it had some flaws. You take the best of both of their ideas and create something new. The pros of this is that polarizing decisions are avoided, and each person has a say in the matter. Everyone feels included, and you're not going to end up with a decision that is really way out there. The cons are it's very time consuming, and there is the slight possibility that the final decision you come to after all that deliberation might be worse than one of the ones that you just chose in the beginning. So that's pretty much all I have for you today as far as the meat of the presentation. I want to recap it really quick and show you that we covered the relevance of group decision making, things to consider, and methods you can use to implement right where we are right now. And one thing I want to leave you with is I'm hoping you have a better understanding of the processes that go into it, things you need to think about. And if you're ever in a situation where something as simple as, like, again, going out to dinner, picking a movie, or you got the fate in the world in your hands, I hope that you can come back to this today and look back on that knowledge and use a little bit of what I taught you today to make a better decision, hurt less feelings, and come to a better outcome. So with that said, enjoy the nice picture of this dog. I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much.